Hey, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm going to cover a few different methods for breaking free rusty bolts, screws, getting out broken off screws and bolts, different ways to apply heat. I'll talk a little briefly here about oils, penetrating oils and stuff like that, but that's really not the focus. Primarily, it's on a couple different tools and a couple different methods for applying heat. A few of the penetrating oils I really like are PB Blaster. That one does a really good job. You just soak and repeat, let it sit for a couple days, soak it again. It's a pretty good one. It gets stuff loose that's been crusty and rusty for 50, 60 years. I can attest to that. I like Marvel Mystery Oil. I hear good things about Kroil. I've heard about some methods from a friend about using wax, candle wax. I've never done that, but he said that he's heard good things about that method as well. I don't have any experience in that though. I've used some general penetrating stuff like WD-40 and stuff like that, but really PB Blaster for breaking loose stuff, you know, bolts that have been on a car for 50, 60 years that have seen moisture and are very corroded. It's good. But really, when you get in that realm where threads start breaking down and stuff and fusing together, heat's the best option. But I'll cover a few things here. I'll cover a few tools and a few methods, and some of them work better than others. And I'll cover some of that too. So appreciate you tuning in. Like and subscribe. I really been happy with the growth of the channel, and hope you guys are enjoying the content. Thanks. Okay, the first one I'm going to cover is called the Impact Driver. I really like this one. It does just a little jar to break loose old screws and stuff like that. You can use it for nuts too, but it's great for screws. When you hammer on it, it creates rotation with downward force. It creates a shock. It puts shock down through the screw that breaks it loose. It helps seat the bit as you hit it, so you don't have to worry about it dancing around. It pushes that bit down into the screw. You can see it's a 1/2-inch socket drive, so you can put sockets on it and can use it for that as well. But I primarily use this for rusty screws. It's a really handy tool for that. And you can replace the bits that are that larger size. Here's one right here. It's that larger size of bit. But you do break them and lose them. Okay, I'm going to show you the heat method here on this. I think it's a Model T lantern housing. So this is for a crusty nut that doesn't want to come loose. And I will say be careful about putting too much heat into the surrounding area, but we'll talk about that more a little later on. You can see here I got a little too much heat into the housing itself. That's not a big deal, but you do want to let that nut cool all the way down before you try to break it loose. You can definitely snap it off when it's red hot. Here's a good example of what I was talking about here. I'm going to be heating up a nut that is on a flatter piece of sheet metal. You really want to be careful about getting too much heat into your surrounding panels, because you can shrink metal with heat and you can warp your panels with heat. So I'm passing over this thing real quick. It's a small nut, fortunately, so it gets hot really fast, and the sheet metal around it does not get too hot too fast. Okay, this next method I'm going to show you is the washer and nut method. I'm just going to lay this out here on this screw to kind of give you an idea. So you set the washer on first, and then you you throw a little weld in. You would weld the washer to that screw head, get some heat into it, and then you would set the nut on top, little 9/16 nut there, and you would weld that to the weld that's in the washer and to the washer itself, and then you could twist it off. On this one, I'm going to do just a nut, no washer, because of the lack of space there. So I'm gonna show you how to do this. You're gonna tack the screw first and put some heat down into it and make a little nipple sticking up, and then you will set the nut on that nipple and then weld it to that. This next one's a great example of how this method fails often. I tried it with a nut to demonstrate that, and it broke right off. Fortunately, that doesn't do you a whole lot of damage. What I'm doing here is another method where I'm taking that same screw and I'm welding that same kind of nipple to the top of it. But in this case, what I'm going to do is just sink a ton of heat in and make this little nipple that sticks up that I can grab with some pliers, vice grips. It's just another method. It does throw a lot of heat down, and continuing to throw those tacks on there keeps that heat moving through there. Worst case scenario, it breaks that off and you start over again. But you can see I got that screw head red hot. So as soon as that cools down a little bit, I'm going to throw some vice grips on it, and we'll see if it comes out. You can see I'm getting good rotation on it. It loosened up real well, and no issue pulling it out. So this right here is Eastwood's product called the Screw Buster. You load it in your air hammer. It uses the same size of bits as the impact driver, and really same principle. It provides downward pressure while you rotate. The handles are notorious for slipping. You can see here it slides, which makes it really hard to rotate. A lot of guys will tack weld that handle on to get it just to stay put, which makes it function a little bit better. But yeah, same idea as the impact driver. You stick it in and you put downward pressure on. It drives that bit down into the screw, and you rotate the handle counterclockwise as you're driving. You gotta be careful with this one though, because it is powerful, especially if you have it on a really good air hammer with a lot of air moving through it. You know, you can break the bits off, they'll go flying. You can just shoot the bits off and you'll lose them. Definitely has its place in my lineup. Anyway, like, subscribe. Appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned for future videos. There's going to be more coming here, especially on the Roadster. Thanks.